It's time to get you caught up with all things sports.
Yes! 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 Yes!
On the throw-in.
One thing is certain. None of this is possible without you, the listeners.
From baseball, football, wrestling, and more, covering local Cincinnati sports stories, news, and highlights.
Why is he always calling me?
With your host, Justin Trento.
When it's all said and done, we're going to look back and remember this is what started it all.
Available on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Let's play the ball! Let's play the ball!
Alrighty, what's going on, everyone? And welcome to another episode and another week of the Throw-In on this fine Monday, July 31st, 2023. I want to apologize for the camera that is shaking. It's actually touching my desk, and I'm going to have to do a little bit of rearrangements for later this week. But so hopefully I don't move it around too much. But man, we got a lot to talk about today, but before we can get into conversations of the day, all right, I got to give a big shout out to a friend of mine, and you guys notice what I'm wearing here. I'm wearing some Bengals gear. I'm wearing some Bengals gear here because we're getting excited for some football, getting excited for some NFL. And as a matter of fact, I want to thank our good former co-host, a good friend of ours, Trey Crail, who actually hit me up on Saturday afternoon about 1 o'clock, and she took the kids out to the mall, and he hit me up later. He said, "Man, what are you doing? You got to get out here. Head to Paycor Stadium. I got some free tickets, and it was a free admission, by the way, and I'll explain more. But I got some free tickets to the open practice, which is actually at Paycor Stadium. And from my understanding, this is the only practice that is at Paycor Stadium that they held at the stadium itself." And so I was like, well, I've never been to an actual open practice before. I've never been to Paycor Stadium before. I've been to Heritage Bank. I've been to the Great American Ballpark, but never Paycor Stadium. The only football stadium, matter of fact, I've been to in my life is Qualcomm Stadium, that is now demolished, and it's now Snapdragon Stadium out there in San Diego. And that was actually torn down during the pandemic because the Chargers went up to L.A. Padres have been down at Petco Park in downtown San Diego, and San Diego State is looking to kind of redo the Mission Valley down there. So they tore down Qualcomm Stadium. It was a nice stadium. It was an old stadium, to say the least. You had the spiral, walkways that you had to go down just to get up from level to level. And I've been to one football game. It was actually tradition. My father used to take me out to preseason games all the time. Well, the last game I remember was the Chargers and the 49ers at Qualcomm Stadium. Used to be former Jack Murphy Stadium and so. But it was a fun experience. But you sit up in the nosebleed seats and you feel like you can't really see much. Outdated stadium. And Qualcomm Stadium was dealing with a lot of underground pipings, rotting, and all that stuff. So it became very unstable. So they demolished it, and you end up building, a new one. But the history of Qualcomm Stadium, Jack Murphy Stadium, you talk about SDCCU, the latest name before they demolished it, was things like the 98 World Series where the Padres and the Yankees, although it was 4 games to none. I mean, you had a World Series there. You had the 2002 Super Bowl between, I believe, the Raiders and the Buccaneers. If Steve's in there, I believe he could confirm that. That was down there. It was either 2002 or 2001. That was down there at Qualcomm Stadium. So a little bit of history down there. But anyways, Trey, so he was like, "Trey, we got to head out." Trey texts me. He's like, "You got to head out." All right, man, I'll head out. Drop the wife off at work, head down to the stadium, and I had a blast. Now, I would tell you, it was probably the biggest crowd for non-game experience that I've ever been to in my life. Now, you give credit to the Bengals and their success and the new name Paycor Stadium. And we talked a little bit about Paycor Stadium last week, how they are changing the fan experience. Last year, apparently last year they were ranked top 5 in fan experience. And they've kind of added some new things to really help the fan experience. One of the cool things that I did not get to see over the weekend, but I can't wait to see and how it's displayed, is that the Bengals have what's called the jungle scene, where it's kind of like 3 different platforms kind of put into one that they advertise football. So the players will get in their uniforms and will take pictures and videos in this, like, hey, welcome to the jungle. And it looks like a jungle background. Well, they're going to have that for the actual fans, and that's going to be one of the themes throughout the stadium. And I think that's really cool. We got to the stadium, walked in, and we only paid $5 for parking, which was a great deal. Can't beat it. And, found Trey, met up with Steve over at Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. We'll talk about him in a moment. And, kind of got a chance. You went on to the concourse and everything felt on top of it, like you were right there in the stadium or on the field. And I really liked about that. You had a nice, good view everywhere you're at. And I could already tell that you get a decent view at Paycor Stadium. And I hope one day I could get tickets, because I know it is expensive to go. And Trey was telling me a story about how he attempted to get season tickets, was not capable of doing so because of concerns and issues and problems that he had. And his story was, I think, as this. He told me, I was like, hey, listen, he was like, 2 seats were going to be about $500 for one game. And he was like, that's way too much for a price of seats. Well, he looked into the season membership, and he got himself a deal. Well, he didn't actually capitalize on the deal, but he was saying he was spending about $50 a ticket to have all the preseason games, all the home games in the same seats for 2 tickets. It was $100 a month for the entire year, and you get 2 seats, same location each and every time. And he was sharing that knowledge, and he was like, man, I just didn't capitalize it, and hopefully one day he can, one year, maybe next year. But I tell you, football is very expensive to go through. Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast, who is listening down below, says the Raiders and Buccaneers Super Bowl was in January of 2023. So what, 2022, 2002, 2003 season. Sorry. But, man, it was a good experience. Now, I would tell you how packed it was at the stadium. And I explained this earlier. This is how I would describe it. I had my two daughters with me. They're holding my hand. One was holding my hand. It was like a chain of, all the ducks lined up. And, we're walking past a pro shop, and it was like you're touching somebody at all times. And I stopped to look back at my children to make sure they were okay, and then they're still holding on. And they were. I just couldn't see them. I thought it was crazy. So, Paycor Stadium. Now, they did have open practice today. Did not get to go today. I will be out of town tomorrow at the drive down to Lexington first thing in the morning to take care of some business. So, as far as a throw-in show, if there is to be one in the afternoon, probably not, most likely not, unfortunately. So we'll be back Wednesday. We got a lot to talk about. Let's get right down to business. First of all, I want to give a shout out to our good friends at Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. If you guys are on social media and whatnot, head out to Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast, because I actually recorded an episode with them earlier today, and I forgot the title of what Steve named it. So let me pop it up here. Armchair Booking. There we go. and he just uploaded it today, and we recorded this morning. Now, I've been on several of their podcasts, and I think one thing that I had to start doing, and I could, maybe use, use Steve's, his I can't find. I'm drawing blanks today to start off the show. If I could use his knowledge and his his fame, so to speak, I got to get. He talks about being on podcasts all the time, other people's podcasts, and I'm gonna have to pick his brain and try to have him hook me up with some of these other podcasts around here because, that's one thing podcasts are really known for. It's a community, and they got to share and feed off of each other. The podcast that we posted, Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast, you can find it on all audio streaming platforms. You can find it, I believe it's on YouTube too. Yep. And so it's actually being uploaded to YouTube as we speak. So we'll be able to actually watch it and tell you first thing out of bed. I don't look the prettiest, but it was when should a wrestler leave? And it was actually a conversation that I brought up to Steve yesterday afternoon when we were talking about possibly coming on today. And we talked, I was thinking about this. I was like, all right, one of the biggest storylines right now, in professional wrestling that has nothing to do with inside the ring is, I'm hearing rumors and I'm hearing conversations and I'm seeing articles about WWE and Bray Wyatt just need to split ways. And I was thinking to myself, and I was like, is that really something that's necessary? So it brought up to my attention, at what time does an athlete or does a company, wrestling company in this sense, should determine, hey, it's time to split away? We kind of went at it. There was we didn't go at it, but we had an in-depth conversation because there's a lot of scenario, and every scenario is different from each other. And we had a conversation about this, and I think we only maybe scratched the surface because over this past year we've seen people leave the company for contract violations, contract expires, retirement, injuries. We got into like Braun Strowman, should he stay or should he go? And I think there's an understanding that, where his injury, where, he's been hurt, he's getting the care that he needs, which I think is great. But maybe his time with at least the WWE is done, because even if he is to come back, they've kind of wasted his career, his run with the WWE. And when they came back, last year, and was given a shot, he was kind of just used as someone who can be teamed up, and he was just thrown in there each and every week, which was I didn't enjoy it whatsoever. We got into the Cody Rhodes and Jinder Mahal, Drew McIntyre, who all had to leave WWE, go make a name for themselves somewhere else just to be able to return in the spotlight that they were expected to be. I mean, especially that story with Drew McIntyre. I mean, he was expected to be the next big WWE thing by Vince. He was handpicked by Vince McMahon, and obviously it didn't turn out the first time around. He went out and did something to re-image himself, and he came back as a fan favorite, and he's kind of been at the top of the game. We talked a little bit about things with Jeff Hardy, with, Ric Flair. We have Sting, Dustin Rhodes expected to retire at some point, hopefully in the near future. Edge in that case. We talked about down here with NWF and Chris Harris, who's been in the ring. So it was a impactful show. I filled in for Dwaylen, who is currently on vacation down in Florida, while we are up here and it hasn't been so bad today, low 80s. Compared to over the last week, it was just ungodly, insane to go outside. Well, it's been nicer outside, but still Cincinnati weather is nothing compared down to Florida. I know Florida has its own, you could have, off to the right, you could be nothing but sunshine and daisies, and off to the left, you could have a hurricane coming in. So Florida can be crazy, but I sure hope wherever Dwayne's at, he is safe. He is having fun. I saw some photos on social media, and I can't wait for him to return, hopefully next week, and listen to the podcast. Now, and I love going on Armchair Booking Wrestling's podcast. I love going on Steve's cubicle chat, and it's just shooting the breeze and talking sports, talking wrestling, and all the fun stuff. So if you haven't downloaded and subscribed to Armchair Booking Wrestling podcast, check them out now. Steve Dwaylen is the encyclopedia of professional wrestling. If it's a question, he knows the answer to it. He has a gift, and he'll probably never admit it, but it's something really incredible. So I had a blast today. I had a blast over the weekend. It was a lot of fun, and I hopefully we're going to come back and doing it again real soon, maybe even this week, a possibility, because SummerSlam's coming up. SummerSlam. Excuse me. So it is on Saturday in Detroit, and we have a lot of big card. We have a nice big matchup. Now, the one thing, if I am to go back on Armchair Booking Wrestling podcast this week to talk about SummerSlam, the one thing that I've noticed off the top of my head is that WWE is notorious for promoting certain events. WrestleMania is promoted for like 3 months whole. Royal Rumble is promoted heavily. Survivor Series is promoted heavily. I have not seen a whole lot. Maybe it's just me, but I have not seen a whole lot promoted out of SummerSlam this year. And I think we have a pretty nice match card. We got Brock and Cody, the rubber match series between them two that will conclude this Saturday. We have the Chiefdom and the WWE Universal Championship, which is, on the line as Roman Reigns takes on Jey Uso, I believe. I get the brothers mixed up, so I apologize. And then you got Seth Rollins taking on Finn Balor, what I would say, I guess, 7 year in the making? 7 year in the making feud from their original match that crowned the inaugural WWE Universal the Universal Championship. So, on top of a few other matches that I think is worth watching. And I just feel like I have not seen on social media or on television a lot of promoting of the Royal Rumble as of late. And not the Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, excuse me. But SummerSlam is one of the 4 original pay-per-views that the WWE carries year in, year out. And if the WWE cannot have a premium live event, a pay-per-view, but they had to cut down, these are the last 4 to go. So I'm a bit disappointed in the promotion for this. So I guess one of the questions going into the weekend here, as SummerSlam creeps closer, is going to be, one of the 4 pay-per-views you live up to, you have this expectation. Does WWE succeed in pushing past SummerSlam? In other words, coming in next Monday, I'm going to answer the question, who did SummerSlam, was it good enough? Because, this is, for me, in professional wrestling, one of the biggest events of the summer. Okay, we could talk about, AEW and what they have. You could talk about Slammiversary with Impact. You could talk about Summer Sizzle with NWF. But for me, SummerSlam is what everyone knows and also loves. So we are definitely going to start talking about that. The go-home show to SummerSlam is tonight, for Raw, is tonight. We will have Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar in the same building, which is going to be fun, interesting to watch. We will see Sami Zayn team up with Seth Rollins to take on two members of the Judgment Day. I believe it's Dominik Mysterio and Damian Preist. On the other note, the Great American Badge was last night, where Dominik Mysterio I want to say Dominik Mysterio successfully defended his NXT North American Championship against not only Wes Lee, who is the former champion, but also against, who was it? Mustafa Ali. So, and then we saw a great match between Carmelo Hayes and Ilja Dragunov. For those who follow NXT, and I caught bits and pieces, I didn't see the entire thing. So that's on the agenda today. We got a lot of sports, a lot of Cincinnati sports to talk about, as we will cover the Cincinnati Reds, who took the series victory over the Dodgers this past weekend. And it feels good. But we will talk about what's coming up next, because they extend their road trip down to Wrigley Field tonight, coming up in about, 3 hours from now. The Cubs and the Reds, first game of 4. Now the Cubs come in tonight in third place of the NL Central. Well, the Reds are coming in first place of the NL Central. Milwaukee has that wild card spot currently. So there is a lot still going on in baseball as we end the month of July, begin the month of August, and the trade deadline is up. So we'll talk about that. We're also talking about the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow going out. They picked up a couple of different quarterbacks for options. Now, are we worried? Are we not worried? And how does this affect, how would this even affect his contract? We just saw Justin Herbert sign a 5-year deal with the Chargers. And that was a name on a list of quarterbacks that can affect Burrow's contract extension. So let's talk about some Bengals football today. And also, at the end of last football season, I ranked all 32 starting quarterbacks. I did that again for preseason. So we got a very impactful 2 hours for you guys. Just getting started here. Want to thank for everyone who is watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and hit those notifications so you don't miss a single episode. If you guys are tuning us in on our Facebook page and Twitter page, we encourage you to get involved in the action, involved in the comment. Head on over to our YouTube page, comment down below, get involved, and we'll display them, talk about them. If you guys are listening to us on our audio platforms, we thank you. Subscribe them, rate us, all that stuff. Plus, hey, if you miss any action, any episode, you can find everything TNC Sports Talk related on our website by heading on over to www.tncsportstalkshow.com. That is www.tncsportstalkshow.com. All right, we're going to take a break. Come on back. Continue talking here on this Monday. You guys are listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, 5:26 here on a Monday afternoon. The TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel is given to you thanks to StreamYard Studios, proud home of the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel, where you can create podcasts, videos, host of virtual business meetings, and even conduct interviews. Check out their free version today at StreamYard.com. Alrighty, it is a Monday, and feel a little bit of a lot to talk about because of the absence. I actually got a good start last week, Monday and Tuesday. Kind of got busy on Wednesday, and then one thing led to another. Thursday, Friday, I was all absent. I had a good weekend. Hopefully, you guys did as well. But man, bad news for the last week with the news of Joe Burrow being out for several weeks. With not an ankle injury, excuse me. I got a calf injury. I'll be like to type that incorrectly. And it's the same calf injury that he's had issues with. And for me, I can't help but to be a bit concerned for the future. Now, guys like Jamar Chase have come out and said, hey, there's nothing to be worried about. But as a fan, I have to ask if, how serious is this? And could this lead to problems throughout the course of the regular season? And listen, we've seen a lot of quarterbacks that play through a lot of injuries, and, Burrow has definitely got himself, hit a couple of times, and he's gotten back up, and that's great. But the last thing I need is him to come into a season. I'm still worried about the offensive line, which was solid. It's a solid group, but injuries really just crumbled the offensive line in protecting Joe Burrow last year. And that was one of the keys to Cincinnati's success, was protecting your quarterback. Well, on top of that, and because we haven't really seen this offensive line established and begin the season healthy, we also now have to throw in that we don't have the top tier backfield defensively. And so I feel like there is a bit more pressure under the offensive coordinator position and the entire offense to make sure that you have more of a flawless year, because you don't know what kind of defense you're going to be given per game. And Cincinnati begins the season in Cleveland before coming home to Baltimore. And we hope that Joe Burrow is healthy, and we hope that Joe Burrow can make at least opening day at home. But I also want him better before he returns. I don't want a 75% Joe Burrow, because we have a grueling season for 18 weeks. And I don't need him playing not at his best, especially in the dog days. I know he's not going to be 100%. I don't want him playing 40% in December if we can avoid it. When games count, when, games matter, especially when we get into the postseason. So is there a legitimate concern for Joe Burrow's injury and Cincinnati's success after, this injury? The only good news is I would say that it happened early on in preseason. It'd be different if we said Joe Burrow got hurt the last preseason game. And you don't necessarily need to see Burrow out there during the preseason at all. And a matter of fact, he probably wasn't going to get a whole lot of snaps, at quarterback, throughout the course of the next month. So we weren't really going to miss a whole bunch. But it's still nice to see our potential franchise quarterback out there for at least practice. And we don't. Now, the Bengals invited back on Saturday former XFL quarterback Reed Sinnett and Drew Pitt for a workout. And according to articles here from Sports Illustrated, Bengals went ahead and signed a couple of those quarterbacks. They added Reed Sinnett for depth. And so we do have options. They're probably not the greatest options that we feel comfortable with, but we will, I think, settle on them coming in and at least holding down the fort. And I think that's important to be able to, have quarterbacks that can come in already knowing what they're doing, to be able to hold down the fort and to be able to give us time for Burrow to relax. And that may be the only thing that saves us. If you could bring in and have a depth of quarterbacks. And now remember this year, the rule is a bit one additional quarterback that is not on your 54-man roster, come before the game and suit up and be what they call an emergency backup quarterback. All thanks to the 49ers playoff game last year where they actually had, Christian McCaffrey at quarterback at the end of the game because Brock Purdy came out and his backup went out. And so I like the idea of now being able to store 53 or not 53, but you can store 3 quarterbacks and not have to use a roster spot, which I think would benefit a lot of teams. You just have to report it to the NFL before game day. Now that could help. Now let me ask you this: the other concerning factor is not among the fans. It's really going to be what the Bengals decide to do. Pat McAfee in his statement today talked about Joe Burrow. Actually, I want to say today. I think it was actually last week. No, it was today. Excuse me. Pat McAfee talked about Joe Burrow today, and he said that he's not worried. He's not worried one bit. Pat McAfee on the Pat McAfee show said today, I don't get the sense that Joe Burrow deal is imminent right now. Eventually, when it does get done, though, I do believe that it will be the highest paid quarterback. Now, maybe this is me being very cautious moving forward, but I would love to sign Joe Burrow to that 6-7 year deal, that megastar contract and being the highest paid quarterback. It's only going to be temporary because we know the cash value for quarterbacks are much higher. And by the time Joe Burrow, and he's kind of the last on the list if you think about it, because the next time someone signs a quarterback behind, you see maybe Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, or even Richard Anderson, maybe get that mega star deal and one, from the new drafts. But we'll see over time. Joe Burrow being longevity quarterback for the Bengals, that's great. I get concerned when it comes down to, all right, we've already saw this injury. His rookie year, it requires surgery. He was out for the entire, for the remainder of the year. He comes back. He has 2 bounce back years. But now we see this kind of re-inflammation of this calf. And I just get worried if that's going to be the same injury. And here's the thing. You have to, you can't, you need your legs to plant and to throw. Okay. Your entire body goes into throwing a football. And we need that. I don't know, Joe Burrow is also capable of moving. He's capable of working the pocket. And I think there will be some help with the offensive line, expecting them to be good, somewhat good this year. But for me, longevity is questionable because injuries happen, problems happen all the time. And, let me take you a baseball reference. I don't think the Padres signing Fernando Tatis for 15 years was a smart investment. They named him the face of the franchise for the next decade because of what they saw the first year of his work and what they and when it comes down to baseball and football, college is different than professionals. High school is different than the pros. So I don't want to decredit what Joe Burrow's not capable of doing. He's a great quarterback. He's a beloved quarterback. I enjoy watching him. I would go on the limb and saying I love Joe Burrow as much as any Cincinnati fan would enjoy, love Joe Burrow. But you take that risk, and I guess the Bengals could take that risk of, all right, let's sign him and risk that he doesn't get hurt or his injuries aren't going to come back around and bite us in the ass. I think that's fair to say. So we'll see how that prevails over time, but we got a couple of backup quarterbacks, which I feel decent about. Get them some reps, get them in early on, get through preseason, which begins, I believe, August 10th against Green Bay. And, but you still have to feel pretty good about yourself. Now, we'll talk more, especially coming into this week and next week and throughout the preseason about the expectations for the Bengals and the division. A lot of people still say that they are the team to beat, that, because Burrows has a 3-1 record over Patrick Mahomes, that he, Kansas City is below Cincinnati. I'm terrified, and we'll talk about this, but I'm terrified about Lamar Jackson and Baltimore and everything that they have to offer and bring to the table this year, because you don't have to worry about a contract anymore with Lamar Jackson. You don't have to, he's picked up a draft wide receiver. He's also picked up Odell Beckham. Cincinnati has, not the greatest defense now because they lost 3 of their core defensive players from last year. There is, for me, and I don't know about you guys, but there is a legit concern now. I feel like Baltimore is more of a threat and could potentially beat, Cincinnati in the long run, and that could affect their playoff. But that's a conversation for the later day. All right, let's continue our conversations when we come on back. The Cincinnati Reds are about to take on the Chicago Cubs, game 1 of a 4-game series. We'll tell you about the series victory against the Dodgers. You guys are listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, let's get back into the conversations here on this Monday afternoon, 5:42. And you gotta feel pretty good again with the Reds back in first place. Struggled the last couple weeks. That's because they've had to endure the Milwaukee Brewers. And I thank goodness that they're officially done with Milwaukee. They don't gotta face the Brewers again until maybe the postseason, and then I'll be worried again. But they feel good, and it feels good when you get to pick up some victories, especially some good teams. You know, the Reds dominated the Dodgers all year long. They took the series against the Dodgers back at home, and they get a chance to do it. You know, they did do it in LA, and I was a bit concerned. I told you guys last week on the program that I was a bit concerned for the Dodgers and Red series because I kind of just knew in my gut that, all right, we're just not going to beat Milwaukee. And I was like, all right, let's just hope that the series, if we're going to lose the series, let's not get swept. And you know what? The Reds fought, and they fought hard, and they didn't get swept. They lost. They went. They took 1 of 3. I was a bit worried because that momentum carrying into Los Angeles at Dodger Stadium, where you see the gold and blue, and I feel almost like I was insulted watching the series against the Dodgers. And I'm trying to figure out why. Well, it's not sold out. And this is the unfortunate, realization to a team that has so much success like the Dodgers. And this is why I hate Dodgers fans. I mean, yes, the Dodgers have been a dominant team. They're currently in first place of the NL West. And I give Cincinnati a lot of props. They defeat the Dodgers, and they took 2 games of 3 over the weekend. And that, when you beat a team like the Dodgers, and I know that they don't have the best record in baseball, the best record in the National League, but when you are capable of beating one of the better teams, then by all means necessary, I really, that's an accomplishment. But I didn't see a sold-out crowd. So I'm wondering to myself, does Dodgers fan, because over the weekend, the crowd is sold out all the time. So I'm wondering if Dodger fans don't quite, or did not look at this series quite as a threat to the Dodgers schedule. Maybe Dodgers fans thought that they could go to the stadium and Dodgers, didn't have to go to the stadium because they know the Dodgers were going to take care of business. Well, guess what? The Reds shut out the Dodgers yesterday afternoon, 9-0. 9-0, zip, nada. How often does a ball club like Cincinnati, who is right now still in the mix of, we're still a growing team, but we're still good enough to compete, can say, hey, we beat the Reds in a series? Not often. So I take a lot of pride in the Reds beating the Dodgers, taking that series. They're done with the Dodgers flat out. So now it's off the road to Milwaukee. And they got to face the Cubs in a 4-game series coming up here beginning tonight. All right, they're going to have Andrew Abbott on the mound. He's 6-2, 1.90 ERA. He's going up against the 53 and 52 Chicago Cubs that playing about 500 baseball. You got Marco Stroman, 10-7 with a 3.51 ERA. Game 1 of 4, the Reds have had success so far this year and throughout many years, last couple of years, surprisingly against Chicago at Wrigley Park also. So I feel pretty good. But I think it for the next 2 months, I think we're going to sit on the edge of our seat, and it's going to become very nerve-wracking to watch Reds baseball because they are testing the waters. They are teeter-tottering over first place in Milwaukee. And it only takes one bad, stretch to put Milwaukee out in front. Chicago is creeping up behind us, in the Central and in the wild card. And that wild card over the last 2 weeks have been a close race. I'm talking about Milwaukee, Cincinnati. I'm talking about Philadelphia, Miami, San Francisco, Arizona, all in the hunt. San Diego's on the back end with the Cubs. They're all kind of looking to play in, and we still got plenty of baseball to go through. 2 whole months, as a matter of fact. So, we can't let up, and I know we have our issues with our pitching, but everyone's been contributing, and that's what I love so much about Cincinnati's baseball. You compare to any other baseball team, other than maybe Baltimore, which has been very exciting to watch. They just beat the Yankees last night, 9-3, I believe, 9-3, 9-4 last night. I thought that was really incredible. How often does Baltimore beat New York or even Boston? And, they're holding down the fort in first place in the American League. And so, it's fun to watch some good teams, the teams that you don't expect to win. And that's what I'm all known about, is that as much as I love to watch the Yankees and Dodgers in the World Series each and every year, it's fun to see these new teams creep up, find success, and hang on. It gives you that adrenaline. And like I said, I think that's one of the reasons why Cincinnati came in and took the series against the Dodgers over the weekend. What does that mean, though, moving forward? You got the Cubs 4 games before you come back home next weekend, or this weekend to say. And you got a lot of work that still needs to be done. You're starting to get worried. And, Jonathan India gets put on the IL. And you still have some guys, Stuart Fairchild came back up. That's great. And, what's great about, I think also great about, seeing, hey, all right, Jonathan India is down on the IL. That sucks. Of course it does. But I know that Jonathan India isn't the only person that is producing on this ball club that you would say, all right, that's not, I mean, it's a hit and it sucks, but it's not going to make or break our season. Compared when we were talking about when Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo went on to the IL, and we're like, all right, now we're starting to throw these younger guys out there, and how well are they going to handle themselves? So far, so good. But I think it urges the question or the sense, what can the Reds do? Now, we talked a little bit about last week. Trade deadline's coming up. It's less than 24 hours away. And, I have yet to see the Reds make any moves, make any deals. And we talked last week that one of the things that I wanted to see is that they're going to make any moves, any deals to help improve their roster at a push for October baseball. Okay. It has to be in correspondence to maybe a pitcher. I think we analyzed this. It had to be a starting pitcher that we can rely on, that is consistent, to help out guys like Abbott and Ashcraft and Williamson in that rotation. At least until Green and Lodolo comes back from injury. But in that way, there's also no rush and no hesitation of saying, hey, Hunter, I need you now because we're in a tight bind. And I guess I don't know. I have mixed emotions coming up tomorrow because as of right now, I see absolutely nothing being done. And a part of me is like, what are you doing, Nick Kroll? Why aren't we making deals? I know we're going to have to give someone up to get somebody, but what are you doing? How come we don't have anyone in conversations? And I'll tell you this, it is the quiet teams that make the biggest splash right before the deadline hits. So I'm staying optimistic. We saw this last year, with, AJ Preller trading for Juan Soto. That was out there. That was a completely left field move. But overall, a part of me feels like if you don't make a move, you're making a mistake. But at the same time, It's part of not making a move at this time where you have, the process that has been working well so far throughout the course of this season that you are depending and you are relying on to get you to October baseball. And maybe you just have to stick with that process. For me, that's what I would do. So I'm in a catch-22. I will be tremendously bummed out if the Reds does not make the effort to go out and to try to get anybody for the remainder of the year. I don't think they need an at-bat. They don't need a defensive player. I think they need either starting pitching or bullpen. I think bullpen's been solid so far. I feel like they just need pitching. But at the same time, if they don't get nobody and they decide to stick with this course and they stick with the game plan and they stick with everyone that they have now, and they still have talent down there that they are yet to bring up and they feel comfortable and confident enough to bring them up instead of bringing someone else in here, where then they get tied into the mix of the rotation. And then when Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo does come up, it becomes a concern or an issue. I am, I'm okay if they don't spend nobody, but I'm stuck in this, catch-22 because this is an exciting time of the course of the year where people make their cases for postseason runs. I mean, we saw Texas over the weekend. They traded 5-6 guys to pick up some key players. Now, there's the conversations of Justin Verlander being out there, and we know that Shohei Ohtani is not going to be traded, and I'm okay with that. Okay, I'm okay. But could we see something miraculously happen and last minute slide in and pick up a Justin Verlander? Like I said, catch-22, you also think about it. Does it also make sense to put Justin Verlander in this rotation, into this ball club that is also has been built over the last, 3 or 4 months of younger talent that come up and have something to prove? I mean, yeah, we've had Will Myers, who they got rid of because, he wasn't as productive. Wasn't really expecting him to be productive. Casali, great with the catching position, but Luke Malley. But, I mean, other than Votto, this entire organization is very young, very talented, has a lot to play for, has a lot to learn and get in this game. So, for me, maybe not making the move is the best move to make at this point of time. But I guess we'll wait and we'll find out. I guess we'll have to see. Dodgers, Cubs, Reds tonight, 8:05, coming up in about 2 hours from now. And then coming back up this weekend, we'll host the Washington Nationals. So if you can finish off the road, you're at 500 baseball on the road in this series. If you can finish off this road stands either at 500, which means that you're splitting against the Cubs in 2-on-2, or you take the series somehow at Wrigley Field, then you put yourself in a pretty good position for the home stands that has to come that start this weekend against the Washington Nationals. And I'm sure everyone's excited to get back at a Great American Ballpark. We'll check out those City Connect uniforms and watch the Reds win some baseball. I know I am. All right, our number 1 is complete. It's in the books. Our number 2, let's go ahead and transition a bit into the conversation of WWE. We got a couple of, we're heading to SummerSlam this Saturday. And, I know we talked a little bit about Brock Lesnar. We talked about the Judgment Day, and we talked about Seth Rollins. I want to go ahead and try to talk a little bit about Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, WWE Universal Championship is on the line. But I think the attention of this feud is the chiefdom. You know, the Tribal Chief name is on the line. And yeah, a whole bunch of directions that all this can go down. Do you write the final chapter in this? Do you have a lot more room to work with? And I'll share you my thoughts and my opinions coming up next to kick off hour number 2. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. We'll be right back. You guys are listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Going on, everyone? Justin here from the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. I want to give a big shout out and thank you to you, the listeners. That's right. Without you guys, none of this is possible. I would also like to take the time and invite you out to our merchandise page, thanks to T Public. Our merchandise page is where you can find all of our brandings from the Throw-In, which is currently active weekly, to the TNC Sports Talk official brands, to either the prior shows that was part of the TNC Sports Talk Foundation. Within all the brandings, you can select t-shirts in both men and female sizes, apparel such as hoodies, kids onesies, kids t-shirts, phone cases, notebooks, coffee mugs. They have a vast majority. This is why I love T Public. And right now, if you spend $80 or more, you get free shipping. And so we want to invite you out to our merchandise page by heading on over to tpublic.com/user/TNC-sports-talk, or even using the QR code up in the right-hand corner. We want to thank you guys again, the listeners, for supporting us, and we hope to see you guys out wearing our merchandise. Alrighty, welcome back here. 6:02, hour number 2, beginning here on the program. Thank you guys for tuning into the Throw-In. What's going on, Trey? Just got back from practice. Hey, I wanted to just give you a shout out for Saturday. I mean, I know the tickets were free. You got a whole bunch of those tickets, but man, thank you for hooking us up. Said, hey, come on out here. It was a great experience. I mean, despite the crowd interaction, it was a great experience. And I know we talked about it on Armchair Booking Wrestling podcast, but man, I mean, for me, it was a once in a lifetime. And hopefully, Trey, we can at one point get out to a game together. I would love to get out to a Bengals game. Maybe not this year, maybe next year, but and this is for anyone who's out there. If you got tickets, you guys want to hook up our way, we can share their experience. I don't care who I sit with. Just even if it's nosebleeds way up there in the corner, I definitely got them. But thank you, Trey, for providing those tickets, man. If you guys miss hour number 1, go back and listen to it. Can't tell you enough. You guys could check all content out: blogs, episodes, YouTube, videos, not sponsorships, giving thanks, and all that stuff. Our social media contacts, our merchandise page, all thanks to Podpage. Podpage is our website creator. If you head on over to www.tncsportstalkshow.com right now, give us a follow. You can rate our show and interact with us. You want to be a future guest on this show? Email us through their website right there, www.tncsportstalkshow.com for more information. Love it. Okay. We don't just do podcasts here. We call baseball games. Hopefully to call a football game this year. Hopefully to call a Bengals game this year. Right. I think people will enjoy that. And it provides you content. It doesn't just help me out, but it gives you guys the ability to, whether you guys are at work, whether you guys can't watch the game. I know when I was at working, on Sundays or on Thursday nights, I couldn't watch the game. I had to listen to it. And sometimes it is difficult. You have to go pay for a subscription to listen to the game. So we provide the best we could possibly provide here on this channel. Talking about just things that I've been working on. Like I said, I won't be here tomorrow. I have an appointment. I'm going to head down to Lexington, Kentucky, and take care of what I need to take care of. It's going to be a slight chance that there will be an episode. So don't anticipate one, but we'll be back Wednesday. Got a lot to talk about in sports. But been working on got a friend that's right down the street. His name is Tony. And he's a good guy. He just opened up a new business out here called Aspire and Glow. You ever been to the mall and you see like a Funky Fusion type store? Kind of very similar to that. He sits there. He has a lot of tie-dye stuff. He has a lot of ceramic, antiques, collectibles, accessories, and whatnot. And he is he's just started the business. He wants to grow a business. I've been in and out of his store. He does like those incense and whatnot. So he has a lot of stuff. And lately I've been working with him. We just created his webpage because we figured that, hey, the foot traffic isn't so ideal down there by his store. He's next to La Rose's, and that's pretty much it. So I told him, hey, let's get you online. Just created a webpage for him. We're adding some new stuff tonight. And if you guys want to support his store and his product, they got some cool stuff. He has prices he can't beat anywhere else. Head on over to aspire-glow.com. That is aspire-glow.com. Check out his website. You can have this view his store location if you guys want to stop in. Say hi. Tell him Justin sent you, and he'll hook you up with a nice, good deal. Trey, let me see what I have going this Sunday. There's a chance that we could head out there. I don't think it's at the stadium. It's down on the field. It's not at the stadium, right? It's at the practice field. Let me know in the comments there. There's probably a good chance that we'll be headed down there. I don't think we have anything planned for Sunday. I believe the Hall of Fame game is on Sunday, no? Football game? I believe so. All right. Just let me know and I'll confirm it. If you guys are Cincinnati fans, I know we talked a lot about the Bengals, a lot about the football. Hey Trey, while you're up here listening, for those, I got my Bengal jersey on. It is a Joe Burrow jersey. Now this is This was the Super Bowl jersey. Yes, I am initially a Rams fan. All right. I am initially a Rams fan. And don't get me wrong, okay? You know, Trey loves to heckle with me, and I hate it. I love it at the same time. But, you know, I sit there and, you know, because Saturday, we met up Saturday, and he walked him out to his car after the practice, and he, you know, telling my girls, oh, you know, by the way, don't, you know, he likes the Rams, so let's go Who Day. And they're just the cutest thing ever, getting them all the Who Day chants outside the stadium. I loved it. But listen, I was born and raised in San Diego. I was a Chargers fan by default until the Rams moved out. Chargers decided to pack up, go to Inglewood. So I became a Rams fan. This was the time that Dean Spanos, and I just got rid of them, went to Stan Kroenke and with the with the Rams. Moved out here, so I guess this home team is by default a Bengals fan, right? I mean, and it's grown on me over the last, I don't know, 3-4 years. You know, 2-3 years I've been out here. It's grown on me, and so, you know, when the Rams and the Bengals, you know, went to the Super Bowl, you know, I was like, it was a win-win. I couldn't determine who was going. You know, who I didn't really care who won, because it was a win-win for me. Either the Rams were going to win, and I think I initially wanted the Rams to win, but then the Bengals could have won, and I would have been fine, because it was, you know, we're 10 minutes down the road from Paycor Stadium, if you think about it. So, you know, when they both won their AFC NFC championships, I went online. I got the Super Bowl logo, so I have the Super Bowl logo here at the left hand, and you know, the rest speaks for itself. But a little bit of story then. All right, we got to get back into the conversation of sports. SummerSlam is among us, and that means we have one of the feuds that's been going on since the beginning of this year, and that is the Bloodline family feud. And the Usos. So let me give you a little bit of backstory for those who's been in and out of touch of professional wrestling, strictly the WWE, over the last couple months. The Usos drop the unified tag team titles to Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. And you also have, so after they drop that, you know, WrestleMania, or the Backlash, you know, in Puerto Rico, you know, the loss again. Roman Reigns says, hey, we're going to take matters into our own hands, and says, all right, myself and Solo Sikoa is going to go into Night of Champions, and we're going to retake back those tag team titles, which doesn't happen. And we actually see the Usos finally get fed up, and they turn against Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa. And now there's been this feud, this family feud that took back. We had Money in the Bank, where you had this Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns take on the Usos, the Civil War. And now coming into SummerSlam, Jimmy Uso's out on the shelf. He got he had an injury, whether it's a work, whether it's an actual injury, we'll see. But it's going to be Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso. And I have to really just put it in perspective of how much Paul Heyman, who is the advocate, the wise man to Roman Reigns, has played a huge role into helping antagonizing the Usos. I give Paul Heyman a bunch of credit, because he's done a lot in this feud, in this storyline. And there's some things, you know, I think right now it's hard to really say, because the bloodline was not created for Roman Reigns. The bloodline was not created for the WWE Universal Championship. I do strongly believe what Roman says, and if he was going to go win that title and become a main event of WrestleMania for years to come, with or without the Usos or Solo Sikoa. Now, obviously, we have seen throughout time that it was that the Usos and Solo Sikoa has stepped in and helped Roman retain the titles, but to get to that level has not been because of the bloodline. The bloodline was for the family, and I get that. But there has been a lot of, towards the end of the bloodline's run, Roman Reigns becomes more self-preserved for himself and his success only. And when he's in competition, he would always expect the family to be there by his side defending him. But then when you go send Roman or the Usos out to do battle, or you go send even Solo Sikoa out to do battle, where's Roman Reigns? Nowhere to be found. And if this is a family-oriented fraction, every member needs to be supporting every member. So, the Usos have had to do time and time again the dirty work of Roman Reigns. That is going after Sami Zayn. That is going after Kevin Owens. And especially towards the end of this family feud. And at WrestleMania, where was Roman Reigns? Nowhere to be found. He was not at the Usos' side when it came down to the tag team titles night one. And there was no excuse. You can't go say, hey, I was preparing myself to go up against Cody Rhodes. You can't make that excuse, Roman. So I'm a bit drawn with really who to point fingers to. Because both of them do have valid excuses. I think, and then Paul Heyman gets involved and tries to use this whole, you're the next person in line. You're expected to be the next tribal chief. Well, as long as Roman Reigns is in control and has a champion, when is the next in line? So at this point, I do feel like this was the right direction, and it's an exciting direction for the bloodline to go down, for this family to go down, because now there's so many different directions to see. And one of the directions that I saw a couple weeks ago is that the Usos have now been attempting to recruit Solo Sikoa from Roman Reigns' side. And there's been some push against Roman Reigns, even back to Solo Sikoa, kind of laughing at Solo, saying, he's going to be the next tribal chief, or people are going to follow him. And he's like, no way. That ain't going to happen. But I think it also gives you the perspective, the sense that, hey, one, you're including Solo Sikoa into this feud, which is great, because I feel like there's so much potential in Solo Sikoa. And I do feel like a lot of that success is going to happen when he's not a part of this bloodline, or when he decides. And what I'm hoping for, spoiler alert, maybe rumors, I'm going to go out there and say I would love to see Solo turn against Roman and maybe even be the one to dethrone him. And we had this conversation last week on the program. But we have to go back and finish what we started. The bloodline started with Roman Reigns defeating the Usos, and particularly Jay and Jimmy, that we have to go back down that way. So not only this title, this WWE Universal Championship, which is not the epitome of this feud and why this match is happening, but it's going to be up for grabs this Saturday, as Roman will defend it against Jey Uso. But the key thing is that Roman is putting is initially putting up his chiefdom. He's putting up the tribal chief name, and whoever wins will earn that tribal chief segment, which for me, I personally enjoy. This lines up to asking the question, is this the time where Roman Reigns loses? Could you see them take the title off and put it on Jey Uso and let him run this family for a couple months while Roman Reigns takes a break, because as of right now, advertisement for the remainder of the year on premium live events, Roman Reigns has been MIA. So could we see that happen? Could we also see maybe Damian Preist, who currently holds the Money in the Bank briefcase, finds a way to take it off of both of their hands and takes that title? Maybe he becomes the Tribal Chief. I mean, okay, hold on a moment. Possibility. And then the Judgment Day has both control over SmackDown and Raw if Finn Balor could go on and win the World Heavyweight Championship. Like I said, I theoretically, one of the theoretical decisions has been, or conversations, it has been, Jimmy is going to come back and turn on Jey Uso, which now then will set up a feud between Jimmy and Jey, which then could also put Roman Reigns aside for a bit. But there's a couple of different paths and directions that we can see this feud take place. So I guess it's really, which one do you like more? And I think Jimmy turning on Jey, keeping it inside the family, pushing it out at least until next year, would be more suitable. And this family and this bloodline is just only growing as we see more and more of the Olani family grow with the company. So who do you guys have winning this year's match between Roman and Jey Uso for the WWE Universal Championship and for that chiefdom? I'll leave you pondering over that. Let's take a break, and when we come on back, I want to give you my quarterback rankings as preseason approaches here. The Hall of Fame game this weekend. Preseason officially begins next weekend. I rank the starting quarterbacks of the preseason. And yes, Joe Burrow is still on that list, even though he's injured. The throw-in returns here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
About to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be. Life with no distractions, we'll get away. This is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's go, let's be free
This hour of All right, let me try that again. 6:23 here on the program. This hour of the program is given to you thanks to Spreaker. From iHeartRadio, Spreaker, you can upload your podcast, analyze it, and be able to monetize your podcast. Upload it to all major audio platforms, such as iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, and much more. Check out their free version today at Spreaker.com. All right. All right, let's get the ball rolling here. The preseason is about to begin here in just a few weeks. As a matter of fact, 2 weeks officially. This weekend, you have the Hall of Fame game, which, I mean, nothing really too exciting about. Just a couple of teams expected to play. I really don't know. Let me find out here for you. NFL. Actually, this Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you have the New York Jets and the Cleveland Browns in the Hall of Fame game. Preseason week 1 actually begins next Thursday, August 10th, where we have 2 games. One between the Houston Texans on the road to take on the New England Patriots. And the second one is the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Seattle Seahawks. So football is definitely right around the corner here. You also think about this time, you still have college football coming up here at the end of the month. They kick off before the weekend before the NFL season. And then you also have high school football, which is about to get underway. So plenty of football to go around. Well, last season, at the end of last year, one of the biggest number one topics to talk about is rankings. Ranking team players by positions. You know, last week we ranked NFL teams by conferences. And we got a lot of conversations in, and there's still plenty of NFL to talk as preseason's just getting underway. And we learn about players who don't show up to practices. We learn about teams and where they're at with injuries and where they're at, what they need. We saw a couple contract extensions, primarily with Justin Herbert, who signed his contract extension. We also saw Aaron Rodgers, who is committed to the Jets, dropped his contract. We'll talk about that a little bit in this hour. But everyone loves to give out their rankings. And so why don't we? And so last year, at the end of last season, we gave you my NFL starting quarterback rankings to end the season and where I stand in. And to begin the preseason, excuse me. To begin the preseason, we will give you a NFL rankings for preseason work. So, going to kind of give that in to you. Let me just share the screen here. Nope, wrong button. Share screen. Windows. All right. So this is where we're at. And a matter of fact, let me make sure, because it takes me to that screen, that we have you. Well, there we go. All right, so I'm going to be down here. This is my take of the NFL quarterback rankings, the starters for this year. I'm going to begin 5 at a time. 4, 5. Matter of fact, let's start with the last 2. And let's go ahead and reveal those. All right, coming in at the very bottom is Washington's quarterback, Sam Howell, and Atlanta's quarterback, Desmond Ridder. To be honest, and this is just going to be simple, I don't expect much Desmond Ridder is who? Yeah, I don't know who the hell he is, to be honest. And maybe because the division has definitely shaked up. You got Derek Carr, you got Baker Mayfield, no Tom Brady. I get. Maybe he'll have an opportunity, but I don't see nothing out of Atlanta. As a matter of fact, Atlanta's probably one of the worst teams that I even have going for. And the only reason why they may even be a decent team is because the overall schedule, we'll have to look into the schedule and probably do a schedule, for each team and a win-loss. Let's do that. Anyways, we have Sam Howell coming in next. Despite a postseason opportunity run, I just don't see Washington doing much. I mean, with Daniel Jones just being better, we know how good Jalen Hurts is, and Dak Prescott. Washington will probably be at the bottom. Although I do have to give them credit; they've had a better turnout this year at training camp than last year. Coming up here at the bottom of that list here, Mac Jones in the New England. Not a lot of faith in him. A lot of these players like C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson with the Colts are at the bottom of this list just because they are young quarterbacks. Yeah, they were drafted high, but I just don't feel like they have much of a team around them. Houston is still a few years away. And when you're in a team with Tennessee and you're on a team with Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, right now, I'd say, it sets up for good quarterback action down the road, but I still feel that, they're not going to be quite ready to make a significant push rookie year. Kyle Murray, problems. Russell Wilson also down at the bottom of the division. All right. We're going to keep on working up this list here. We got Bryce Young. Nothing against him in this sense, but there's a lot of great quarterbacks. And I haven't, like I mentioned this time and time again, where the college football is very different than NFL. And even if you bring in the schemes and the playbooks and the coaches from, who these quarterbacks have played with, putting them up against NFL pro-ready football, especially players that have been there for years on end, and think of where Carolina is. They got to face the Saints. They got to face, Baker Mayfield. So you do run into, because, hey, you're going to get your feet wet. I don't expect you to have much of a success this year. Now, hey, I'm hoping for one of these quarterbacks at the bottom of this list here right off the bat to surprise me. And if I'm having to choose one player, it's probably one of these rookies. I could see Anthony Richardson kind of stepping it up and giving Tennessee and Jacksonville a run for their money. I could also see maybe Bryce Young with how, that division, is turning out to be, giving a run for their money. Baker Mayfield, he's down pretty low on my list, just for the fact that, I defended him so much last year against Carolina, and he proved me wrong. Now, he was able to turn it around again, in LA, but he's back with Tampa Bay. And to be honest, it's going to be a huge difference comparing Baker Mayfield to Tom Brady. So just in that opinion, he's kind of moved in. What's interesting about Deshaun Watson, he's come back. He doesn't have a suspension this year. So it's going to be interesting to pay attention to. All right, we keep on moving up this list, and I'll go ahead and post this list up on our Facebook page. But coming in, we got Justin Fields at number 20, and number 21. What, this is 20. Hold on, wait. 230. Let me see here. Preseason. Hey, there we go. So we're -3. All right, he's coming up in at number 20. Justin Fields with Chicago. Derek Carr with the Saints at 19. Matthew Stafford, Geno Smith, and Kenny Pickett. I think Pickett's, after his rookie season, he's expected to have a better year this year. With Pittsburgh and the way they play football, always playing above 500. I think that they could still be back around 500, but I'm expecting him to learn a little bit more Geno Smith with Seattle, he pressed a lot of people last year, so I'm giving him a little bit more credit this year. Matthew Stafford is going to average out. Derek Carr, he's going to have a lot to prove, to be honest, and he gets what he wants getting out of Vegas, and we'll see how it turns out, to be honest. Let's continue moving. 5. Coming in at number 15, we got Tua Tagovailoa. This is a interesting conversation. I'm gonna always question the ability of how much should you put under Tua in his predicament. I mean, sometimes playing smart football is taking a step back, and I know he wants to be in the spotlight, and I give him a lot of credit for it. But you do scare me in a lot of sense, and maybe after everything that happened last year with concussions for him, maybe he takes a different approach and he prevents himself from being hit. Daniel Jones takes a definitely leap up, but you're starting to get into the swing of quarterbacks here in this rankings. Daniel Jones, a good quarterback, coming in at number 14, but he is, he still has Dak Prescott ahead of him, and then Jalen Hurts. Jordan Love is actually on this list, which is not surprising because of Aaron Rodgers going over to Green Bay. But Jordan Love's going to get a chance to actually crack at himself. Jared Goff has been playing. He prevented Green Bay from a postseason last year. I say Jordan Love is a good quarterback, but you know what? This is the first year where we get to see Jordan Love have the team for himself, and it's going to be a sink or swim in Wisconsin for the Packers, to be honest. So I don't know what to expect out of him. I mean, I know he's good when he comes off the bench, but can he play a full season, 1, being healthy, and 2, leading a team back to the playoffs? Coming up here at number 11 is Dak Prescott, and he barely makes the top 10. And the reason behind that is because I got to say, I'm running out of patience with Dak Prescott. Yes, he got hurt last year. And listen, his backup quarterback, I can't think of at the top of my head, but he stepped in and he played just as good a football as Dak Prescott did. And, Dallas is being very patient with him. So I guess I wonder, in this sense, realistically, if you have Dak Prescott, and how much longer do you buy, do you stay, how much do you wait much longer in Dallas for Prescott? Just a little update here. Armchair Booking says the episode's uploaded. You guys go check out Armchair Booking's wrestling podcast latest episode. When should a wrestler leave? I was thinking he was nice enough to have me on as a guest and filling in for Dwaylen Davis. You guys can check that on YouTube and download it on all audio platforms. We will be giving you the top 10 here right after this quick word. I wish that I have had the ability to kind of tone that down. It's very loud. I gotta tune down my the audio set that goes into my headsets. check out Armchair Booking Wrestling podcast today. Download them, subscribe to them. Don't miss a single episode. And where you're at it, both individuals, Steve Barber, Dwaylen Davis, they have individual podcasts and YouTube channels. Check them out. Dwaylen in the encyclopedia can't give him enough credit, man. Love what he does, what the content he puts out there. And Steve, man, we talk all the time. Great person. They're just, it's nothing but love here and really giving back. So check out Armchair Booking Wrestling podcast today. All right. Your other podcasts are audio only for now. Oh, okay. Excuse me. Sorry. Yeah. So Steve has another podcast called Cubicle Chat, and that's only audio available. So if you're looking to download it, listen to Cubicle Chat. But does Dwaylen's is also audio, I believe, as well. But they got some really good content going out there as well. Thank you for that clarification. All right. Let's get back with you with my top 10 in rankings of quarterbacks preseason status. Coming at number 10 here, I got Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, from the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, a lot of people are going to say, why Jimmy G in your top 10? Dak Prescott's better. Jordan Love's better. Tua Tagovailoa's better. You know what? Yes, he's injury prone. I will give you that. But the one thing I love about Jimmy G, guess what? Wherever he goes, he's successful. Okay, and when he went to San Francisco, you can say how good the team is in general. But Jimmy G, when he was healthy, he wasn't a terrible quarterback. He played very well, and he led them to a lot of success. And, listen, he definitely took, and I backed Jimmy Garoppolo up over Trey Lance. And I understand he's injury prone, but Jimmy Garoppolo holding down the fort in Las Vegas. I know you got some shoes to fill. You're expected to come in to actually, raise the bar than what Derek Carr came in and did. And I think, Jimmy kind of now grows into giving the Raiders a fighting chance at a postseason and getting over that hump. I think he's just a tad better to what Derek Carr provides, but he's capable of bringing a lot more to the plate. No, I don't want bold. What am I doing? All right. Coming in at number 9 is Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence had a really good second year. Still a lot to learn. Went to the playoffs, beat the Chargers, lost against the Chiefs, but it's the repetition of facing some of the greats that can get you over. That's why he's number 9. Aaron Rodgers with the Jets, he is now committed. He took a pay cut for a contract extension for 2 years. He's committed with the Jets. And it's time to rise or shine. His days are numbered. He is also very, he does work through a lot of injuries. I'll give him a lot of credit. But he has 2 years to bring the Jets to a Super Bowl. Do I think he could do it? I mean, I don't know any other quarterback that could step in and take the Jets to the Super Bowl other than maybe Aaron Rodgers. I'll put it that way, but I don't know with how good the AFC is in general. I don't know if the 2 years is enough time. But they're making a run. Brock Purdy comes in at number, 10, 9, 8, 7, right? 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah. All right. 7, Brock Purdy. Listen, from Kyle Shannon himself right now, as of right now, Brock Purdy looks pretty good. Doesn't seem to have any arm issues after his UCL surgery this offseason. It was a bad loss, knocked him out of the playoffs, but he's back. And I think he had a lot of success. Hopefully it rolls over until this year. Jalen Hurts, a lot of people say he should be up higher, but just because you go to, I have to remind myself the same process every year. Just because you go to the Super Bowl doesn't mean you're ranked number 2 automatically in the world. Okay? Everyone wanted to rank, believe that Joe Burrow was above somebody like Josh Allen. after they went to the Super Bowl with, after he went to the Super Bowl against the Rams. The problem I have is that I need to see multiple years of the consistency out of that player to know if he's legit or not. Everyone wanted to throw in that Burrow was the next big thing, and I was refused last year to believe that Joe Burrow was up as high as he was ranked from most NFL scouts or NFL reports. I put him down lower. I had him say, hey, you prove it to me, and then you're going to, go up the bar. And what has Joe Burrow done? He's proven it to me. So Joe Burrow has moved up. Jalen Hurts is going to have to do the same thing. Great. You've had success this year. But this gets last year. He's had success. Great. But you have to have a success again and again and again. The Eagles have the opportunity in the NFC to be the dominating team and win it all again and go back to the Super Bowl. But it's all, it all depends how the team plays. It all depends what type of Jalen Hurts you get. All right, coming back in. We got what? 1, 2, 3, 4. So now coming at number 5. Lamar Jackson, Baltimore. All right, he's healthy. That's behind him. His contract is behind him. He could focus on himself and playing, and that's it. And I think that's what maybe sparks a little bit more of his playing time. Jackson's number 5. Coming at number 4 is Josh Allen. Josh Allen. Okay? He says and he claims that he knows what he has to change in order to continue at this level in this league. He has to be able to stop holding on to the ball. He has to trust the playmakers. He has to trust his offensive line. Now, because you say it, you got to be able to do it. So let's see if Josh Allen can finally do it this year. He comes in at number 4. Coming in at number 3, Justin Herbert. Contract extension. He's in a tough division, but you know what? I tell you, he's growing and he's learning. He's getting better year in and year out. I haven't liked a quarterback from the Chargers up in this high of the rankings since Drew Brees was the quarterback. And that was what? Practically a decade ago, it felt like. Philip Rivers was a good quarterback, but nothing like Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is able to adapt, and I think he could give the team or the Patrick Mahomes a run for their money. And I consider him up there with Josh Allen. I consider him up there with, Joe Burrow, and Patrick Mahomes. So Justin Herbert comes in at number 3. Coming in at number 2 is Joe Burrow. Great. I understand, which means coming in at number 1 is Patrick Mahomes. Yes, I'm going to get people to tell me this. Ranked number 2, Joe Burrow. Why Joe Burrow when he has a 3-1 record over Patrick Mahomes? Well, I think it's unfortunately simple. Mahomes has more rings. And, the Bengals did lose that Super Bowl against the Rams a couple years ago. So I have to give it to Mahomes. I still feel out of every team in the AFC, out of every team in the NFL, Mahomes is that ladder, that ceiling, right? If you could beat Mahomes and beat the Chiefs, especially in the AFC, then you can, go. You can go to the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow is that stepping stone for AFC teams. You want to beat the next greatest team, you have to beat the Bengals and Joe Burrow. NFC, right now, Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. But I think overall in the NFL, Mahomes sticks to that as well. Armchair Booking did mention this about their podcast. Intellectual Rockstar is also on audio. So be sure to download them and give them the support. All right, let's take our final break of this evening. Let's come on back and talk Monday Night Raw coming up next. You guys are listening to The Throne on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Man, these 2 hours came by really fast. Welcome back here on the throw-in. We will not be back tomorrow, more than likely. Probably taking the day off tomorrow because I got to drive down to Lexington. But we will be back on Wednesday. Talk more sports. The trade deadline ends tomorrow. A lot exciting. Reds, Cubs tonight. Game 1 of 4. Hopefully when we come back on Wednesday, we can talk about the Reds taking the first 2 games of the series. I want to give our final big shout outs to Epidemic Sound. Discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts and music they deserve. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music link. For more information, check out epidemicsound.com. Also wants to give you a shout out to Canva for creating our ads, platform for creating our ads and our videos. Check out their options at canva.com. Alrighty, well, you know what? Guess what? The Go Home Raw before SummerSlam is finally here. And as I mentioned, it doesn't feel like WWE was really promoted too much of SummerSlam this year. It'll be held in Detroit. But we're going to see a couple of nice things going on. We have Maxine Dupree taken to tangle with the Valhalla tonight. And you know, Steve and I talked about this very briefly on his podcast, Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast, earlier today. You can listen to it on YouTube and on all audio streaming platforms. And the problem that I have is that Viking Raiders should be dominating the tag team division on Raw. They should be going into SummerSlam facing Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn for those undisputed tag team titles. And I'm a bit disappointed that we don't see that. Just like, you know, it was a conversation that we brought up with the Ascensions, you know, with Paul, you know, and then who I can't remember that tag team that was with Paul Ellering. Man, I wish I can remember. Let me. Authors of Pain. I had to get to that. Authors of Pain was the other tag team that should have just came into WWE and on the main roster and just dominated. And, you know, that's where, I mean, listen, I love the entrance that the Viking Raiders have, Valhalla and all the stuff that they have coming out. Very cool, very majestic for me. But they just don't utilize them that way. Logan Paul will be on Raw tonight as I believe he's going up against Ricochet at SummerSlam. I look over that shoulder. We'll talk about that later this week. Brock Lesnar will and Cody Rhodes will be under one roof. This feud, this rubber match series, series between these two men, all knotted up at one. Who's going to prevail is going to finally be under the roof again. And the last couple of times they've been under the roof, it's been nothing but chaos and attacking each other. And you know what? I get it. And this is why I love the feud. You know, although I don't like with how long it's taken, Cody Rhodes is still capable of being on Raw each and every week, contributing in matches and being a part of the program, which is something that I actually applaud the WWE creative team for doing, because they could have made Cody Rhodes return and say, all right, you're only going to be in the main event, maybe wrestling every 2-3 months. Well, and for how big he is, he probably, should be like that. But Cody Rhodes has been fit right there at the mid card and in the main event. And he's been fit perfectly. And in the meanwhile of stretching out this feud between Cody and Brock, he's been able to have feuds with the Judgment Day, with a little bit of, with Dominik Mysterio, this and that. So I love it. Love this feud because you let the person who can talk, and that is Cody Rhodes. Brock Lesnar, you keep him off the mic. You just let him be destructive. Just don't hurt Cody Rhodes. That's all I got to say. And whoever wins, I honestly feel that Cody Rhodes should not win this Saturday to move on. Or maybe he does. But I also hope that an outside interference or an outsider comes in after the match to begin another feud. Because, like I said, the ultimate goal is, and I feel like the WWE has trapped this because I'm never going to let this forget. And if you're a WWE fan, you still don't forget this. Cody Rhodes lost to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. And you go on, and his goal was to get back to Roman Reigns through earning his way through against opponents. Well, Brock Lesnar was one of his opponents. Maybe Randy Orton, we throw out the idea of maybe Randy Orton returning, maybe, and having a feud with Cody, which I think I would love to see. Also, the idea of Bray Wyatt could return. I don't know, which keeps a great open conversation. But this feud has been nice, short, simple, sweet, get to the point, just leave it out in the ring. Although I don't really quite believe we understand exactly why Brock Lesnar is going after Cody Rhodes. I don't think we have ever really understood that, but other than maybe jealousy for being in that spotlight, right? I don't know. And last but not least, to finish off our program here, we have a tag team action between the Judgment Day taking on Seth freaking Rollins and Sami Zayn. The Judgment Day will be Dominik Mysterio and Damian Preist. Damian Preist has that Money in the Bank contract and is kind of eyeballing that World Heavyweight Championship. And with Finn Balor taking on Seth Rollins, we don't know. He could potentially cash in, but Dominik Mysterio successfully defended his title on Saturday at the NXT Great American Bash against Wesley and Mustafa Ali, and thanks with Rhea Ripley once again. But Judgment Day last couple weeks have dominated and ruled the WWE. They have been the last men standing. Does that happen tonight? We will be back on Wednesday. Talk about that. That is all the time that we have for our program for you guys, but don't worry, the phone continues later on this week. Be sure to head to our website at www.tncsportstalkshow.com for more information. With that being said, my name is Justin. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Until next time, you guys take care. Have a great rest of your Monday.